Hi everyone, it's Mandy Gibbons here, and I'm here with Dave Clare, and super excited to have you on today, Dave. And I was wondering, because we had an opportunity to speak before, and just we had some sound issues, and so now we're coming in, and this one's going to be even more epic than the last one, if we can do that, because the last one was just so brilliant. So I'm super excited to have you on.
If we have sound issues again, right?
Oh, that's funny. So, Dave, would you mind telling us a little bit about your awesome self? Because since we spoke last time, so many more amazing things have been taking place in your life. So it's like it feels like this new chapter times 10 type thing. So I'm excited to find out more about what's going on for you too.
Thank you. Well, firstly, you can obviously tell I'm still, I haven't changed in terms of my sense of humor. Dad jokes run amok. So for me, I was trying to think actually how long ago it was, Mandy, that we actually did the recording. It was almost 2 years ago, I think. And it was,
It
yeah.
was it was you were at
I wasn't here.
no, you were in White Peak at your daughter's
Oh,
place.
that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
indeed. Yeah,
yeah,
there's a lot's happened since then. She's actually
yeah,
living down here in Perth now.
yeah.
Okay, so the history of Dave, very briefly, a long story, very short. So I'm obviously a proud dad of three amazing children. Two biologically are mine, and my son Dylan, who was 14 years old when he was born into my life. He lives in Canada. The other two are here. My most important things in my life, other than my wife, of course. Husband of the year for 13 and 15 years. Apparently, there's 2 years when I missed out, so I don't know what happened. But to me, what's really important, and I share those things first because no matter what else I've done in life and or business, those I don't want to call them as my accomplishments, but those are things I'm most proud of. Is the relationship I have with all three of our children, and the relationship my wife and I have. How she puts up with me. We talk about the word passion, which means your ability to endure suffering, and so her passion for me must be amazing. But yeah, so those to me things that like really important to that like that is the part of my definition of success, if you wish, Mandy, is like that having that happy and wholesome relationships in your life. Outside of that, from a business point of view, I'm also the CEO and founder of Circle Leadership, which I think is just above me here, and I've founded this organization about 5 years ago. I've been doing personal organizational leadership development for 25 years now, but in the format in which we do it today, the system that we offer to our clients today, we started this methodology about 5 years ago and founded Circle Leadership around that to build an organization that would transcend my time on this earth, as I wanted to build a legacy organization. And so we created Circle Leadership, which exists to help leaders evolve themselves and their businesses to stay relevant. And that came about from my journey through my life as a Canadian young kid getting packed up by his family and moved to Australia, to the land down under, when I was 15 years old, and getting into banking and finance and leadership roles here, going through all that and doing tremendous amount of learning as a practitioner, working with some of the most amazing leaders that no one would have ever heard of except for the people who worked with them. And then getting to a stage in my life where I decided I needed a bit more of an adventure and a challenge for myself. So at about 32 years of age, I packed my then wife up and Mitchell, our son, and moved to Papua New Guinea and lived in Papua New Guinea for about 14 months. And in that 14 months, I learned more about human behavior than I've ever learned in anything else I've ever done. And had some amazing adventures and things there. And but it got so challenging for us as a family. And then my then wife was pregnant with my daughter Jordan, and we decided we didn't want to raise another child in New Guinea. So we moved back to Australia for Jordan to be born, but then didn't want that adventure to end. So once she was born, we packed up and moved back to Canada and lived in Canada for 10 years. And then as things progressed and started my business in Canada, that was when I decided, like, you know what, I've got to find out who Dave Clare is, what he's capable of, and decided to stop working for people and start my own business. And failed epically in the beginning, and happy to explore that a little bit further, but learned a lot of lessons with that, and then ended up becoming very successful in that business. growing a business. So it was very successful growing business, which was great. Had a big team. We were serving lots of clients, everything like that. But there was things in the business that weren't working properly. And at that same time, my then wife chose to leave me and the kids. And the global financial crisis came along, and everything we owned and everything was upside down. And I virtually lost everything except for the kids, which is why I always start with the kids, because there's one thing I would do it all again, just to have the kids and be able to raise those two amazing human beings, and be privileged to be able to do that. And then I learned that. Then that's when I met my now wife and her son, Dylan, which is now my son. And then we got together and started to rebuild our family. And then we moved back to Australia. And then I rolled up my sleeves and got back in the trenches. And I learned all about being a practitioner again and getting in there. And instead of coaching and facilitating organizations, I became a leader of an organization again, and turned around a couple of really awesome organizations, and then left and went back out on my own and wrote my book and traveled to Australia, and then decided it was time to actually see where I could evolve and stay relevant. And that's when I created Circle Leadership, and here we are today.
Ta-da!
Yeah, and now we serve clients all around the world right from here.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's so cool. And it's been really interesting, like seeing you in the last 5 years, like the impact that you've had, but it's like you've transformed like exponentially as well, right? It's been, I mean, you were already incredibly powerful in what you were doing, but watching you in the last 5 years is just been so exciting to see.
Yeah, but thank you. Well, and what this is, when you think of like the work we do with our clients and stuff, like if this is the business you have and this is you've built this business, that's amazing. Now you're saying, hey, I want to have this business.
Yeah.
Well, this person built that business, not the one up there. So who do you need to become then in order to build this business? So I'm not immune from this stuff because I do it for a living. So if I wanted to have this global organization that would impact, 90 million people around the world, or, that's our big goal, 90 million. Well, then who would I need to become? So I've had to constantly keep evolving. And every year I set a theme for myself, and, looking at that theme and applying it to all areas of my life is my evolution theme. So I have an evolution theme every year. So when I hear that from people like yourself, I really value and appreciate that, because it shows that you can see that I am doing that work, because we do the work that we ask our clients to do. And I have to go first so our team can go further. We have to go first so our clients can go further. And if we're not evolving and staying relevant, then what the heck are we doing here?
Yeah, that's it. You got to lead by example, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with the odd dad joke.
Which you're, or I was going to say, 200% fluent in.
Yes, I can speak dad joke in 20 different languages.
Yeah. And so there's a couple of things that you just spoke about that I like. What was it like? First, I'll talk about your kids, right? Because what was, just share what you can in regards to this. What was that like finding yourself like as a single father, right? And knowing that you were going to have to raise your kids on your own. Like that's like having the rug pulled out from under you big time.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was, and for multiple reasons too. Like at the time when it happened, and please understand, I want to preface this, that I totally respect what my ex-wife chose to do and everything like that. She's still the mother of the biological mother of the children. And I thank her every day for giving me those two beautiful gifts. And so this is nothing against her. It's more than how I went through it. Is that, when she chose to leave, there was a part of me that was a sense of relief, because I was living in what I felt was a loveless marriage for many a years. And it was, which also caused a whole bunch of financial challenges for me, because I wasn't feeling happy on the inside. So I did things on the outside to make me happy. So I went and bought nice cars and bought the buildings and spent to try and make myself feel happy from the outside in, because I was not happy on the inside out. And that's really, I think, is one of the biggest lessons I ever learned. Right now, I'm more about the inner work and the inner happiness than I am about it. I have so little in my life that I have so much in my life now. But I was trying to use material things for that. And so Not only when she chose to leave and pursue her life and what she wanted to do, there I am, a single dad with two kids who were both 6 and 9 at the time. At the beginning of the global financial crisis, I had a mortgage on our building, mortgage on our house. The values of those things were plummeting. It was like they were actually being flipped over. 70% of my client base, well, and my team disbanded because the ex-wife was in the business at the time, and that impacted the team, and so went down to me. Then our client base shrunk. I'm going, who's going to want a single dad up to his eyeballs in debt with limited income potential? And I was 39 at the time, I think I was, yeah. So it was, it was just like my whole life had been flipped on its head, and I'm like, what am I doing here? And I'm not, once again, did I have thoughts about ways to escape my reality? Sure, I did. I never pursued any of them, but the thoughts came rushing up, I assure you. But then I'm going, well, who takes care of the kids then? Yeah. Who does? And then where I had to challenge myself to go, well, look, Dave, what? And I've done this before when I had the business earlier. I had, it's just, and I'm like, what am I going to teach the kids? What's the lesson here that how I behave right now, all behaviors learn behavior, but however I choose to handle this is going to impact how the kids see life, especially still at 6 to 9, whilst, 2 to 5 is their formative years, but at 6 to 9, they're going to still see some lessons. And I wanted to show them that no matter what life throws at you, you got to find a way, because life will throw shit at you.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was, I went to some dark places. It was some really tough moments, Mandy. It was, but I had, and it was quite fun. The fascinating thing for me was the people that I reached out to, what I thought my closest friends were, a lot of them backed away. They didn't want to get involved in even some of my family members in Canada, they, once they went on to sided with the ex-wife, and neither of us cheated on each other. None of us did anything like that. It was, she wanted to pursue her life and her goals, and she felt that this wasn't going to be able to do it with us. And that's, I totally respect that she made that decision, because I would never have left. I was conditioned to believe that marriage was forever, and I would have lived in misery for the kids forever and a day, in my unhappiness, because I thought that's what marriage was supposed to be forever.
Yeah.
And then some of my family members siding there, and it was like, wow. But then there was amazing people who stepped up and stepped into my life at that time, who didn't judge, who didn't do anything. They were just there for that. Whereas others didn't know what to do or how to handle it. So I understand why. But the people who I surround myself with today now are the ones that are always stepping up and stepping in, not the ones who step out when things get awkward.
Yeah. And that's, when you go through your tough times, that's who you can tell who your true inner circle is, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you might surprise you. It might not be the people that you think that it would be or should be.
Yeah. Yeah.
I certainly found that out, even when it came to family.
Yeah. Yeah, you're 100% bang on there. That's exactly right. And the cool thing is that also opens a door, right? Because for new people to come into your life as well, that will step up, because you'll often find that it's people that are so unexpected that you didn't even realize that cared about you so much, or that would be prepared to step up for you like that, all of a sudden step up, and you're like sitting there going, holy crap. You're so grateful at the time, right? Because it feels so isolating when you're in situations like that.
Yeah, Mandy, I've had to have people tell me. I don't even remember, when we then eventually packed up, moved back to Australia, because when I met Tova, my wife now, and the two kids, and Dylan, our other son, he was already in the Canadian Army, so he was staying in Canada. But when we chose to pack up, move back to Australia, even then, I still didn't realize how much stress and stuff I was under, because I don't even remember how we got to the airport that day. I don't even remember who drove us. People had to tell me who it was.
Yeah.
And I did not realize the depth of whether my anxiety or the stress that I was physically under through that whole time, because then I met this amazing woman who was willing to, her son was 14. He was only 3 or 4 years away from her being free to be herself. And then she takes on a 6 and 9-year-old. And Dylan, him and I laugh about it now. He was no piece of cake at that time either, but we sort of formed half the Brady Bunch. But yeah, like the ability for us to come together and do that, but and still trying to rebuild and create some sense of income stream for the family and everything like that. But I was under so much stress and anxiety at that time. I still do not remember how. People have to remind me. I in the moment in it, I probably wouldn't even have realized.
Yeah, because you were
Yeah.
traumatized. Yeah.
Well, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, and
Yeah.
that's yet here I am, this very smart, sophisticated, highly intelligent, usually has his shit together kind of guy. And like I was obviously fluffing my way through all of it because I was in a state of shock or trauma still. Even I'd gotten past the separation and the divorce and remarried and all that, but the whole big picture and like, oh my God, like what's happening to my life right now and where
Yeah.
am I going and what am I doing? And because time I'm 40, I didn't expect to be here. And, because we have these false expectations that we put on ourselves where you should be at 40 in life. And, and I'm like, I failed. I couldn't get my business. Like it was all successful. I thought, oh, look how successful I am. And then as soon as it failed, look how much of a failure I am. And I'm just like, the anxiety and the trauma around that, I was just like, yeah, like literally, I still like, what happened with this thing? When we go through like, oh, that was so-and-so. Don't you remember they were? And I'm like, no. Like I blanked it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird for me because I have a freaking great memory normally.
Well, well, I know even for myself with my own experiences, there are certain things that you sort of become under so much pressure and so traumatized that you forget. And it takes someone to remind you, but also, sometimes it's just more helpful for us to forget, right? That's how we cope. So,
Well, yeah, and that's what with something like with your background and experience, I would, ask you that is like, is that a coping mechanism? Is that or, is it like, because sometimes I think my brain, it just says, forget that stuff, Dave, because that's not going to serve you going forward. You're not, you've learned all you need to learn from that. Don't pay attention to it. Just move forward.
yeah.
Because do I want to wallow? And this is for me, it's like, and I'm very cautious about my brain. Like there's certain things I won't watch and listen to and things like that because I appreciate the power of how your mind works. And I sit there and go, well, maybe that's a coping mechanism of my brain because that little negative thing there is, it's all packaged up nicely and it's okay, Dave, here it is. It's compartmentalized. It's there. You don't need to access that more. When you put stuff in a box and you leave it in the garage or in the attic and then you never open that box up ever and you go, why do I still have this box here? It's just like, get rid of it.
Yeah.
And so my brain's just gone to get rid of it. You don't need that anymore.
Yeah.
That is not going to serve you. You've got the lesson from it. You've got everything you want out of it. Throw the box away.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with recalling on it a little bit later if you want to, but the thing is sometimes it's just more helpful to have it that way. And I think we tend to can judge ourselves a fair amount too when it comes to that, because we are told that we have to like unravel all this stuff all the time, in regards to personal development and so forth, that we need to open up this can of worms. But we don't always have to do that, right? We can do things in our own time. Yeah.
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 Like I believe I've kept the lessons.
Yeah.
But I might have thrown out the teacher.
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you're saying. And so, obviously that was a lot to go through. So, in regards to resilience, what are sort of like 2 or 3 main things out of that time that really like stand out for you, that really strengthened you, but also gave you plenty of insight into yourself, right? Moving forward.
Yeah, a great question. I get one of the things that instantly comes to me when I think about resilience and all that. And this may sound all cliche and gushy, but it's like I always look at the kids and when I had the situation back in October 1999, I've shared this with a few other podcasts and things, but it's what I call when I went from starving to serving period of time. And without going into the whole story, but the concept being is that barely had enough money left. This is when I first started my business in Canada. And we had enough money to cover the rent and food for the next month, and that was it. And then all our cash reserves were gone. I'd spent it all trying to get the business off the ground. And I remember sitting in the kids' bedroom, Mitchell and Jordan's room, and sitting on the floor, Mitchell behind me, Jordan in front of me, just bawling my eyes out, going, what have I done to my family? What have I done here? Have I put us in this position? I need to go get a job, blah, blah, blah. But getting to the point of resilience for me where, and it the same thing applied then as it did back in 1999, as it did when I went through my divorce in 2005, was that I sat there and looked at, what have I done to kids? Or the voice in my head was, but if you quit now, Dave, what are you teaching the kids? What are you showing the kids that when things get tough, you quit? Yeah. And so for me, they don't realize it, but they've been my greatest accountability coaches in my life, to help me become the best version of myself, to do my life's best work. So at that moment, I said, no, Dave, instead of doing that, you need to become more. And this is where you need to evolve and become more of what you're capable of, not just rest on your laurels and whatever you needed to do. And no different at that time is the same thing for me. It's just, okay, so one of my resilience things is going, who's watching? And that was the whole thing, like, who's watching me right now? Because I can let myself get away with it. But if the kids see it, then what impact am I having on the kids? If I, what am I teaching them? And even today, when they're 23, 26, 31, they still see me and they see how I respond to things. And I take that as a very serious role in my life, that my job is to make sure that, I'd rather them go out and be epic failures at whatever it is they love doing than mediocre successes at doing shit they don't care about.
Yes.
And to me, it's one of my resilience strategies is always like, who's watching? Who am I being a role model for, a mentor for, or an example to? And what am I showing them by this choice, or what am I going to show them by that choice? Also, from a resilience thing, I guess I've been able to leverage on the fact that I've always been able to, if I look back now, the amount of times, Mandy, that I've been up and then been down, been up and then down, and up and then down, up and then down. I've always gotten back up. I've always been to bounce back. And usually each time bounced up higher. And so I can use history. So I can use as part of my resilience strategy is that I have history that, yeah, Dave, life's going to throw crap at you. Yeah, and there's something you're not going to expect. And in the moment, you may not know how to deal with it, but you've always found a way. And so I have, let's call it proof. I know who's watching me. I have proof. And in the end, the other thing that I do from a resilience point of view, and I do this a lot more now before I do anything going forward, Mandy, and then this is what I've actually talked to a few people about recently, is work out what's your worst case scenario. Like, what's the worst case scenario that could ever be? And then find a way to make peace with your worst case scenario. If you can find a way to make peace with your worst case scenario, then go after what the hell you want to do with your life and make it happen. Because if it does all implode on you, you already know what your worst case scenario is. You're already made peace with it. So if I have to go pump coffee at a barista shop somewhere or a coffee shop somewhere to feed my family, to do whatever I do, I remember when I started this business and where we were 5 years ago, as I said to my wife Tova, we were in the garage having a discussion about this, and it's like, you probably should go get a job. And I'm like, I'm not going to get a job. And what are we going to do with our future? And I'm like, because I just published my book and I spent all this money touring all around Australia, doing this sort of stuff to try and promote the book and do this thing, and thought, I'm going to be this next international speaker and author. And then I realized I wasn't serving my purpose at that time. I wasn't doing what I should do. And then when that realization came, and I just looked at an empty pizza box on the floor in the garage and said, I'm willing to sleep in that pizza box. That's my worst case scenario, that if I have to lay in that pizza box or lay on somebody's couch, I'm going to make this business happen. And then here we are 5 years later, serving people in Canada, UK, New Zealand, all across Australia, because my resilience strategy was making peace with my worst case scenario. And I'm like, if that's what I have to do it, then that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, I can remember that 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
was in a bad place 5 years ago.
I can remember having a conversation with you, but I also knew that you were going to kick ass.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I could just tell that was in you, when you just know, like, because you were just so passionate, and I just thought, look out for whatever's coming, because this is happening. Yeah,
and to you, like, this is that whole passion thing. Please also like when you find the thing that you're most passionate about, the problem you're passionate about solving in this world, this is how we help people identify their sense of purpose. As I said to you earlier, just joking about Tova and all that, but it's like, passion, reason why we choose your passion, their problem, where they collide to help people find their purpose, is that when it's truly your passion, it's your ability to endure, right? It's your endurance. Passion, if you look at the dictionary definition or the root of the word passion, it means to suffer, right? Passion of the Christ. So pashere, the Latin derivative is to suffer. So I'm not asking what are you willing to suffer for or suffer through, but we look at it from an endurance point of view, but it's the same kind of concept. So because I was passionate at that moment, I found that what I was really passionate about, I saw the problem there and I go, okay, now that I knew I would find a way.
Yeah.
And it's when you're not passionate about something that you can have as much resilience as you like, but if you're doing something that you're not passionate about, it's going to be a bloody hard journey. And you'll struggle to find a way at times, and it'll be easier to give up and do something else. Oh, that wasn't the thing. And whereas for me at that moment right there, I knew I got very clear on what I was passionate about and how I wanted to help people evolve and stay relevant, because I realized that was the biggest mistake I'd made over the years in my own businesses and things like that, was I wasn't evolving and I wasn't finding a way to maintain my relevance, and therefore I grew out of business, which is what we say to people now is like, how many businesses do you know, Mandy, that have grown out of business? They just got really big, but lost sight of why they were there and who they were serving. And so it's our purpose in life and business here to stop that from happening.
Yeah. And I've heard you, when you're speaking, I've heard you say that, and that is so true. And, so many people feel like they're being dragged through life, right? And they're not doing things that are meaningful for them, but they might seem like they're meaningful, but they might be meaningful from other people's perspective and other people's perceptions, maybe not so much from within themselves.
Yeah, and it's a thought came to mind when you were saying that, and it's if I look at all those moments, right, and the two things that I talk to people about, and it's only because of what I've like I say, I'm always been a practitioner. I'm not an academic. I'm not a theorist. Everything's been learned. Two things is, so you're either going to have learning moments and coaching moments in your life. So all those wonderful learning moments that I had, the more we allow those moments to happen, the faster those moments happen, the faster we can evolve, right? The more we allow moments to happen, the more momentum you have in life and or in business. So my life is trajectory, and it's the momentum we have now is from learning from all those moments and allowing even that, not trying to avoid those moments, but allowing those moments to happen as they do, and learning from those, because the faster we learn, the faster we evolve. The second thing I always like to remind people, because how I felt at the time, being buried and being planted feel the same. Right?
I know what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah. So at the time I felt I was being buried, but actually if I look back now, that was just seeds that were being planted for my own evolution.
Yes.
And the crop that has been developed since then is worth every moment of it. Yeah. I am who I am today from the mistakes that I've learned from. There's mistakes I've made that I haven't learned from yet, but I am who I am today from the mistakes that I've learned from.
Yeah.
And for me, it's really important to remember that being buried and being planted feel the same. At time, you don't realize it. And once again, depends on then, do you water that and put nutrients on that and help to learn and grow from that and evolve? Or do you just sit there and pat it down and go, yep, I'm buried?
Yeah. And it's interesting now seeing, because it's exciting because you've got your daughter involved in your business.
So
yeah. And so I was going to say
she runs the business now. I don't have her involved in the business. She's got me involved in the business.
I was going to say, it seems like just from like seeing your social media feed and conversations about her, that it seems like she's very resilient.
You know what? She is the most resilient human being I've ever met. Like, my sons are amazing, don't get me wrong, but Jordan, she's been through some stuff in her life. Even just recently, she'd make probably a great podcast guest because she's been through 3 months before her wedding. Her fiance chose to leave, everything like that, and she thought she had her whole life mapped out. But to see how that she's handled that as a human being, and the way she's gone about it very maturely, and the way that she's dealt with it and processed her emotions, and where she is today, like 6-7 months later, I'm like, wow, what an amazing human being she is. To see that how she's she's allowed herself to feel and to go through and to learn and do all the things that you should do, and bounce back stronger, faster. Yeah, and it's quite amazing to watch. Like kids, they're just. And once again, but could I go back? Definitely no desire to take any credit for it. But the lessons, like I said, that those moments where I'm going, who's watching? Perhaps she's seen that, hey, shit's happened to Dad before, and he's there, and he went through but he's still here, he's still going, he found a way. Like I say, if you go back to those things, it's like, who's watching?
Absolutely.
And if that helped her, would there be something? I'm sure there would be something of that.
Of course.
It's quite funny actually having her in the business. She's sitting there working away with some stuff, and she'd come along to some of our client sessions, and I'm doing my usual thing, the magic and science of some of the stuff we do. And she's like, I've been hearing you say this stuff for like, whatever it is, basically 15 years of her, from 8 to 23, when she's heard me do this. And she goes, I didn't realize any of it had sunk in, but I could tell you exactly what's going to come out of your mouth next. I knew where you're going to go. So once again, even by osmosis or whatever, she's not necessarily like, what's Dad saying? What's he working on? But she's absorbed.
Yes.
In her years.
Yeah.
And this is what I talk about. So you don't know who's watching. She's absorbing regardless. Mitchell, it's not absorbing. Dylan, he's in Canada, but I speak to him every week online. But they're absorbing every single time. And it's our, like I say, it's my duty, it's my obligation to be a shining example of being your best self. That doesn't mean I make mistakes, and if I make mistakes, I own up to them. Hey guys, I really didn't do that very well. I didn't handle that situation really well. You got to be able to do that, but they absorb. Boy, do they absorb. Even still, like having her in the business has been a highlight to me, going, holy crap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, what a wonderful connection that you guys do have, right? Because like she would have found, what she's just been through, she would have found that really, really, really challenging if she didn't have you guys there and be able to be vulnerable and open with you guys as well about what was going on.
Yeah, but when you look at your relationship with your kids, and like for me, I've always worked on a very simple philosophy, Mandy, which was, I'd rather them hate me now and love me later than love me now and hate me later, right? Because was a firm but fair dad and everything like that. I wanted to make sure that my kids, like the relationship we have today, I didn't know if my theory was going to be right at the time, but it's panned out to be okay. Like my kids are my best friends. Like we just love hanging out with them. We go dancing together as a family. We go do a whole bunch of stuff together. And it's a sheer joy to be a part of their lives in that sense. And Jordan and I having a conversation a while ago and seeing some of her friends, and she goes, Dad, I didn't really appreciate it at the time, but I look at some of my friends have turned out, close ones, but people on the fringe that she knows. And that, hey, their parents weren't, strict enough or whatever, or didn't give them boundaries and didn't give them, and now she's so focused on life and knows what she wants and things like that, and works towards things, that her work ethic and everything like that, all the lessons she's learned has been phenomenal. And having that, so I get to play more mentor now. The one of the things that I'm very cautious about right now is not to tell her what I think. And if I have something burning inside me, I just say, do you want my opinion on it? Would you like my perspective on that? And if she goes, no, I'm going, okay. And she goes, yeah, I wouldn't mind. I said, how honest can I be? And she'll go, I want you to be brutally honest. I'm like, okay. Right. But we have, like, I still ask permission to, or she'll come to me and go, like, or even Mitchell, he'll come, hey Dad, I'm trying to work through this thing. Can I chat with you about it? I'm like, yeah, absolutely, son. What role would you like me to play? Sounding board, coach? And he's like, yeah, I just need someone to talk to, just to listen. I'm like, okay. Or, hey, I'd like to get your feedback on it. Okay. Like that is like so cool to have that relationship with your kids now. Whereas I could quite easily go, son, come here, let me tell you what I think.
Yeah.
But I don't do that.
Yeah. That's it. And that
makes they're adults sense now. And if they want to learn, and from a resilience, like hopefully through what I've done, building up their resilience, so they, they're going to make their own mistakes. I would love them to not make the stupid mistakes I made, but I'd also be naive to think that they don't need to make their own mistakes. They do, because I am who I am today from learning from the mistakes that I've made.
Yes.
If I can limit the stupid mistakes that I've made from there, let them go make their own mistakes, at least we're leveling up generationally, so that going forward, they're going to make their own mistakes. And then when they have their own kids in the world, they'll go, hey, here's the stupid mistakes I made. Don't make those. Go make your own.
Yeah.
And so if we can keep lifting that game up, so it's it's passing that resilience through, right, and giving them the toolkit, because you know what the world's like today, man. Like the mental health issues, like most mental health issues start before the age of 24. And it's not to say that that and here's a challenge for us, and I think I love the work that you're doing, because mental health should not have a stigma about it. One of our clients is a psychology firm, and their whole thing is to make mental health just as socially acceptable as going to your PT. Like, I'm going to my physio. If I went to my personal trainer, or I went to my psychological trainer, if I go to my personal trainer, people are like, yeah, high five, you're working out. If I go, hey, I'm going to my psychological trainer, they go, oh, are you okay?
Yeah. Yes.
Like, it should be like high five. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
Because this is the biggest muscle, yet we have a stigma about working on it. But if I'm working on these ones, it's okay.
Yeah. And that's it. The thing is that people tend to think that they tend not to bother building upon their resilience, right? They tend to just think, oh, I'll be fine, and then I'll maybe work on it when shit hits the fan. But then when shit hits the fan, that's when that just wipes them out, because they're so unprepared. And there are so many things that you can never truly be prepared for, right?
Yeah.
But if you are stronger within yourself, and you have so much more mental and emotional awareness about yourself, and you have built up tools in preparedness for challenging situations, and you are and not only that, within those moments, because when you're working on yourself like that, you automatically by default step up for yourself more. So you by default then, of course, are always finding yourself in more challenging situations, because you're putting yourself out there more, right? And so you're always going to be prepared for what's next in some form, right? In a better way. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think there's a big difference between saying, I will be resilient when, or I am resilient.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I am resilient. I'm not like, oh, I'm going to become resilient when this happens, or I'll find how to be resilient when it happens. Like, I'm just resilient.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that things don't happen to me. Doesn't mean that things, I still have to deal with things. I do. It's like anything for me. It's now the window between when I go, oh, to let's do something about it is so small now. Whereas before, you get into victim mode. I'm still a human being. I still get into victim mode, but I don't stay in victim mode. My like, I acknowledge, oh shoot, I'm acting like a victim. Hang on a second. Victor mode. If this is happening to me, or is it happening for me?
Yes.
And it quickly change gears, because from another resilience strategy that I do use is that it's like, I remember when the pandemic first hit, and I'm like, we just got the business off the ground. This is awesome. And I'm like, this is great. And I'm like, all of a sudden, I could just lose every single client I have right now. Like, this is then, my whole livelihood, everything like that. I did my worst case scenario stuff. I got out the whiteboard, and it's okay. What's the worst case? I can take X out of my super. I can do all these things. Okay. How much will I have? How long can we last? And I'm like, okay, cool. So I know I can cover for that. And if I can find a way to do something, and great. And otherwise, I'll start pumping coffee at this stage.
Yeah.
And then I flipped the whiteboard around, and I said, opportunity. And I go, okay, so victim mode is like, oh crap, why is this happening to me? Flipped over the board, went victor mode. How can I take advantage of this? Why is this happening for me?
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's like almost like physically just flip the board around. You can go into victim mode. That's okay. Flip the board around, go into victor mode, and go, how's this happening for me?
Yes.
Because sometimes we don't realize until way later as to why this is happening for me. And you know what? Business doubled through the pandemic, tripled after that. Because for us, for example, everyone was so busy on growth, and everyone realized, holy crap, the world's changed. If we don't evolve now and increase our capabilities, we're screwed.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, the message we've been peddling for 5 years made sense to everybody.
Yes. Yes.
Whereas even today, there's still so many businesses out there talking about, fast growth summits, and growth is the most important thing for your business. And I'm going, no, it's not. You need to create evolution as a natural state of your business and have growth spurts during that. Yes. And people are starting to go, oh, yeah, that actually makes sense, actually, considering the way we are in this uncertainty of our world. And yeah.
Yeah, and that's true. And there's I mean, when I talk about, and even with my clients, we talk about, in a resilience compass,
Hmm.
and which is very much coming from a place of having an empowered, stance, or a disempowered stance, wherever you're going to. And so you can make those decisions, right, from an empowered place within yourself, or a disempowered place. And so if you're making all your decisions from a disempowered place, then every single action, everything you do is going to disempower you, and blah blah blah
Yep.
blah. And then, but if you do it from an empowered place, then all the actions that you take, the decisions that you make, the way you talk, how you carry yourself, everything is going to come from a more empowered place, which will create so much more momentum for yourself. And
Yeah.
people tend to underestimate the power of that, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I love that, because I actually, one of my daily daves I just did was around the word empowerment, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's really important, because that having that empowerment, to me, empowerment is actually helping people realize they've always had the power. It's not about giving people power, like, hey, now you're empowered. Here's my power. You take it now. Now you're empowered. No, it's helping people realize they've always had the power, and showing
Yes.
them how to exercise that in a way that's meaningful to them.
Yes.
And that's why I love it. It's like, you having that resilience as an empowerment thing. It's like, hey, it's in you already. You have it available to you. Here's, you've always had it. You've always had the ability to be resilient. Here's how to utilize it.
Yeah. Well, if you,
Yeah.
if you find that, you've been through a rough time, or if you're stuck in a sort of feeling like you're stuck in a rut, if you go back and take a look at everything that the decisions that you've made, you'll find that they came from a place of disempowerment, right? And so when you can
Yeah.
see that, all of a sudden you go, wow, if I can do that, imagine what I can do for myself, momentum wise,
Yeah.
and from a personal point of view, in business, whatever it is, what life I can create for myself when I come from a more empowered place within myself. But as you said, we all have it within ourselves. It's just whether or not we actually can get the clarity enough to see that, and start taking those little steps. Because I think also people feel like there needs to be like a big jump of what empowered or empowerment looks like, right? They
Yeah.
think it's got to be like driving around in the Lambo and and doing all this stuff, which is cool, whatever you want to do. But the thing is that, like, if you're here and you've got a goal that's like way out there somewhere, and you feel like that's what success is to you, or that's what empowered means to you, then it's always going to feel like a long way away. Where if you can step into that now,
Yeah.
then one, you won't feel like they're the things that are going to make you feel good.
Mm.
You'll start feeling empowered now, right? So you're not going
Yeah.
to be relying on those things, and then you will create a much happier life for yourself. And then if you want those things, you can still go after those things, but you're going to be feeling more fulfilled and empowered now, versus hanging on to those things to make you feel like you're something special within yourself, so you feel good enough. you know that's a long way away to wait, right?
Yeah.
and
100%.
and you'll distance yourself further and further and further away from that when you're coming from a disempowered place within yourself anyway.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I did used to do this exercise with the kids in that, and they tell me, something they want, and I'm like, I can
Yeah.
show you how to get everything you want right now.
Yeah.
Within 2 minutes, I can show you how to get everything you want right now. And just think like, oh, I want an iPhone. Okay, cool. Put an iPhone right out in the middle of the board. iPhone, great. So why do you want an iPhone? Well, so I can talk to my friends. I can do this. I can, there. I can watch some things on it. And that's cool. Okay, great. What other ways can you talk to your friends? Hey, oh well, I could actually just go and see them. I could send them a message. Okay, cool. Well, I could just go on the TV. I could go on the YouTube on the thing. Okay, cool. And so why do you want to do that? Well, because I like to socialize with people. I like to, okay, cool. And so what could you do right now to start socializing more? I said, oh, we could organize a regular thing to catch up with friends. Where do you think we could, and all of a sudden it's okay, there you go. You've got everything you wanted.
Yes, that's
And they're
it.
like, oh, because it's not the thing that you like, the Lambo that you oh, when I have a Lambo, that's success to me. No,
Yeah.
how's the Lambo going to make you feel? Why do you want to have a Lambo? What's it going to do? How's it going to make you feel? What's the things, you want people to recognize you, okay, whatever all those things are, what could you start doing today that would allow people to do that now?
Yes.
And go do that.
Yeah.
And then you'll get that feeling now. You don't have to wait for the Lambo to give you the feeling.
Yeah, well, what will happen is you'll get to the Lambo. When you do get to the Lambo, you won't feel good about it anyway, because it's not going to give you the feeling, because you couldn't give it to yourself anyway. So
that's right. Which goes back to where I was when I went through my relationship, was I was buying expensive things on the outside to get that feeling. Instead of finding it, and this is the reason why I share this with people today, because if I had done that exercise myself at that time, I wouldn't have done that. Where could I have got happiness? Where could I have got joy? Where could I have got all those things that I felt that was giving me, instead of going and spending those, thousands upon thousands of dollars on a vehicle or on fancy things and fancy clothes or do whatever it might have been? Where could I have gotten that? Well, I could have done this, this, and this, and I would have felt better on the inside.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
So I just said, like, one of the things that led to the past conversations where I've sat down and I've gone, like, I've been afraid of, times I've been afraid of losing my wife. Like I've been afraid of losing you, and then when we had the big pizza box thing, it was like, I'm still afraid of losing you, but I'm more afraid now of losing myself than I am you.
Yes.
Because I've been through that before, and I'm not going to lose myself. Because if I lose myself, then I'm going to lose you for sure.
Yes. Yeah.
Because you're not going to want to be with somebody who doesn't know who they are and is not confident in themselves and what they're doing and what they're trying to accomplish. That gives no sense of security to your partner. So I don't care who you are, whatever his partner in life is that. So for me, that creating that inner strength was one thing I cannot afford to lose is myself through this whole process.
Yeah, and a lot of men go through that, right?
Oh, yeah. Like, women are notorious for putting themselves last. Like, I get that. Like, when they take care of everybody else and things that. For me, as a man, I'm always, I have to do this and I have to do that. There's all these expectations on me as a man to provide and do all this, this toxic masculinity bullshit that's out there. And, I have to be the one who's this, and I have to be the one who's strong, and you can't cry, and you can't, so then we end up living this hollow existence. And I think men are the biggest, like, if you look at men and women, biggest imposter syndrome, because we're all not being true to ourselves. Women sacrifice themselves more, like, traditionally, without sounding old school that I am. But the feminine energy and the masculine energy. Forget male, female, right? The feminine energy tends to give more, and the masculine has to, but the masculine still needs to be fed with feminine, and same the other way around, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, like, and so me at that time was like, I needed to do that. And so instead of me doing the inner work when I was younger, when I was 35 to 39, whatever, when I was going through a lot of the stuff, I just poured it in instead of finding it from in and taking it out. And that's what I do now is, what I say, I'm more afraid of losing myself than I am anybody, because I know if I lose myself, then I will lose everybody.
Yeah, and it's a really, really scary place to be when you lose yourself. And when I speak with men, especially when they reach out to me and they go, Mandy, I'm just lost. I'm just like, and quite often it's after a relationship separation, and they've been the provider. It's been devastating for them, especially if they don't have the kids with them. They feel like they're not a dad anymore. And then if the wife then brings a new partner in, it's all of a sudden their whole identity of what they were is gone, and they just don't know who they are anymore. And I mean, that could be in business, in family, relationships, whatever, that can take place, right? And when that happens, that's why resilience and being resilient is so powerful for yourself, to be able to and to be able to live a life that's meaningful, and to not lose yourself when you're in relationships as well, right? Because that's because if you know that you have that within yourself, no matter what happens to you, know that you will be okay. And being able to live a really purposeful life, and knowing that you're doing things that are meaningful, that will help keep you ticking along, even in the times when you are really, really struggling, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
No, I totally agree with you. For me, I look at that and I see as a man, for me, and as a father and all that, like, like I do draw meaning from being, I'm one of my proudest roles is being a dad, right? Like
Yes.
everybody who knows me, I wanted to be a dad since I was like 25. I was just like ready to, I'm one of those guys who just fatherly and needs to be a dad, whatever, things like that. And it is truly one of my greatest rewards in life is to be dad of three amazing kids. They're all pain in the ass at the best of times, but they're still amazing kids. But yeah, but it does come with pressure. And what I've, like I'm not Dylan's biological father, but I'm the guy he calls dad.
Yeah.
Because biology can make you a father, but behavior makes you a dad. Biology can make you a mother, but behavior makes you a mom.
Yeah.
And so no matter what situation you're going out there, like resilience would be like, hang on, I'm the father and no, well, hang on, that's fine. And, or if you're not the father, but you can behave like the dad.
Yes.
Be dadly, be motherly, be momly in your behavior. Biology is the only thing that can create fathers and mothers. And even in today's world, that probably doesn't matter. It's just parents anymore. But yeah, and for me, it's like raising Dylan, who's my non-biological son. Like I say, he was born to me when he was 14 years old.
Yeah.
And for me, that tested my resilience, raising as much as it did Tova, raising two kids as well that weren't hers. But Dylan was a handful, but I treated him like he was my own. It was, from the moment that's it, I accepted the whole package, and Tova knew that Melissa, the kid's biological mother, would still be in their lives in some shape or form, and and we just maintained our resilience and as a family unit, and accepted it for what it was, and dealt with everything that came along, and the emotional highs and lows of the kids as they're dealing in a blended family. And it's even like from a family point of view to get the kids accepted by the other families that are because they're non-biologically, we had to be resilient in that space too.
Yes. Yeah. And acceptance does play a huge role in resilience, right? Whether that's self-acceptance, acceptance of the situation that you're in, because then it offers you in that moment the opportunity then to take responsibility for exactly where you're at, so that then you can start making decisions and creating opportunities and new possibilities.
Yeah, and I think that is such a powerful point I think you make there, Mandy, that like if anybody watching, listening to this is like, once you reach acceptance, like that's the thing between victim and victor, right? You accept it for what it is, then you can go, okay, now, and to me, the word responsible, and we were talking about that in our team meeting this morning, is, are you able? Are you able to respond to the situation? And if so, what does that look like? Because there's people you can react to something or you can respond to something. Reacting is without thought, and responding is putting thought into it, going, what's the best way to deal with or handle this and move forward or through this, right?
Yeah.
But that never happens until you get to acceptance. Yes. You have to accept it for whatever it is. Hey, like, crap's hit the fan. Hey, you know what? The world's upside down, where everything's changed. The sooner I accept that, the better I can find a way to navigate through or around or over or into all this. But without acceptance.
Yeah. And I think there's a bit of a misconception about acceptance too, in that it's like, okay, acceptance means I'm just going to, lay down and take it type thing. But acceptance is more about, as I said, accepting where you are. But there's also some self-kindness, right, as well. Yeah. Because otherwise, if you're feeling like you're just going to lay down and take it, then you're beating yourself up at the same time, right? That's happening, and you're feeling like you're always in a fight. Where if you just tap into acceptance, you're kinder to yourself, and then you're not actually putting yourself in a situation where you're feeling like you're in the midst of being at war with something. And I think that just offers you freedom, right?
Yeah, without a doubt. And that's I was just quickly Googling the word acceptance, the definition of it, because to me it's a really powerful word. Yeah. And so I love words. So every time I hear a word, I go, oh, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Because we sometimes create new meanings for words or get away from the original intent of the word. And And so from an acceptance, the fundamental definition of it is, favorable reception, approval, or whatever of something, or the act of taking or receiving something offered. And it doesn't say you have to like it.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So the act of taking or receiving something offered. The universe is offering you this. You may not like it, but do you choose to accept it? And if once you choose to accept it for what it is, and then you can find a way to move forward from it. If you choose not to accept it or do not acknowledge what it is, or acknowledge it incorrectly, you'll never be able to move forward properly.
Yes.
Forward, through, around, over, whatever you need to do.
Yes.
And that's why I said, like making peace with your worst case scenario. If you can accept that this is my worst case scenario and I'm willing to do with that, go after what you want.
Yeah. Yeah.
So acceptance is, like I said, that as soon as you said that, my brain's going, oh, acceptance.
Yeah. And when it comes to worst case scenario, people are really afraid of the worst case scenario, right? And when you're afraid of your worst case scenario, then when you're faced with it, you will fight it. Like you don't want anything to do with it. You'll hate it. You'll, rather than like accepting it and looking for new options to create something wonderful from that place, you'd sort of just digging yourself in deeper and drowning in it.
Yeah, Mandy, did I like the fact that my whole business was turned on its head? Do I, even with the pandemic coming along, like as many people, like, holy crap, I just got some momentum going, and now this thing's happened, and like, oh my God, now what I'm gonna do? And
yeah,
no, but once I accepted it for what it is, okay.
Yeah.
And then I was okay, then go into what's my worst case scenario, and then can I accept that? And don't want it, doesn't, just because I can accept doesn't mean I want it.
Yeah.
But I can accept it for what it is, if that's the worst it's going to get to. And that's what I say. It's about making peace with it. It doesn't mean you have to want it or have it. It's just, can you accept it for what it is? Can you make peace with it? If so, go after what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. To me, and I think that's such what a wonderful, I don't know if it's a strategy or whatever, you're the expert in this space, not me. And from a resilience point of view, it is definitely part of the process. For me, if I look back now, I'm thinking my brain's going back to all the situations. Oh yeah, once I got to that stage of acceptance,
yes,
and I accepted it for what it was, then that's when I move forward. So the sooner, like I talk about that window when you acknowledge things, is the sooner I can get to acceptance, the sooner I can get things going.
Yes.
It doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that nothing bad happens to me or I don't see the bad and things. Shit happens all the time, Andy. And I get to stage, I'm like, oh, but it's how fast do I move into acceptance that allows me to move forward, right?
Yeah. Well, I know even for myself, I had a worst case scenario, before I went on before brain and nervous system trauma, I had a worst case scenario, and then I got faced with it, and I was like, "This sucks. What the hell?" And because I thought, "Oh, I'll be right." Worst case scenario, this will happen, and then it happened, and I was like, "Shit." This wasn't what I expected. And even in it took me a while to accept it, because I was fighting it, because I really just thought I could nip it in the bud within a few weeks, and because I was so used to going at a bull at a gate all the time and just solving things really quickly. When I realized that this wasn't going to be something that could be solved in a few weeks, I was like, no.
And maybe the universe is teaching you resilience in terms of being patient and
that's
giving things time, and that you may not have realized. And you might not realize for 5 years from now, and then you look back like, holy crap, that was the best thing that ever happened to me, was having that. You see a lot of people who've gone through some significant trauma like you have in that space. And even for me, going back to the separation, and I'm going in the end, that it was the best thing ever happened to me. And that's why I'm forever thankful. I would not have the life I have now. I would have lived in misery. I would have all that stuff. At the time going through it all, I'm like, oh, why is this happening now? Why is this happening?
Yeah.
Acceptance
was, even though I had been relatively good at acceptance, this took it up a new level. Patience and self-kindness, and a few other things as well, and obviously resilience as a whole, but there was these little things, right? Self-compassion and things that I sort of needed to do for myself, that I had sort of put aside for a while. And so all of a sudden I just, okay, Mandy, you got to do this for yourself. This is what, so that you can step up for the next chapter in your life. And what has been incredible about it has been all the lessons that I've learned from it has like made my coaching even more powerful, and just how I live my life more powerful. And there's been so many lessons from it that I've been able to help my clients with. I've had so many people come to me with very similar situations or issues within themselves, right? And I've just been able to nail it with them, and they've been able to move exponentially faster, results wise, and everything. And I'm just like, yes, I see all this now. You know what I mean? Like once I saw that there was a reason for this and why this it happened, because for a while there I felt like I was in victim like anyone else does, like I don't understand why this has happened to me. I had all these plans, and then it was like, okay, now Mandy, you're just gonna have to be cool with this.
Yeah, and you're not immune from this crap because you do it for a living. I'm not immune from needing to evolve and stay relevant because we do it for a living as our organization. I have all the tools and the resources. I just identify it when it happens quicker than some, because I can like, oh crap, and sometimes I don't. Sometimes someone reminds, Dave, remember that thing? Oh shoot. Oh my God, yeah, you're right. What the hell's going on? Thank you. It's because I didn't see that. But doesn't make you immune from it.
Yes.
And I think, in 5 or 10 years time, you look back at that and, as you already do anyway, but you're like, that could have been one of the most significant shifts in your life that changed the trajectory or accelerated the trajectory that you're on, and the number of people you're going to be able to help now, because you're living proof of, like, you're one of the most amazing people I've ever had the privilege of meeting in my life, to see what you've been through and see how you've turned yourself around and got through it all, and the way you've handled yourself through the thing. To me, like, that's like, look at Jordan when she went through the thing, and much like you, and I've just been watching how you've been handling this whole thing, and I'm like it just blows my mind. Like, it doesn't, because I know you. It surprises me, but doesn't surprise me. You know what I mean? It's kind of what I expected.
That. Thank you.
But like, there's other people this would happen to, would not have handled it in the way in which you've handled it, and you are a shining example. And I can't wait to read your book one day. About this whole journey that you've been through. Because you're going to be a role model to millions of people around the world.
Thank you. I truly appreciate. Well, it's funny because it was probably about 12 months after that's when I sort of started tapping more into neuroplasticity based stuff. That's when I truly realized, well, one, there was a lot more acceptance, but that's when I thought, wow, I just saw nothing but. Before, I'd seen possibilities and opportunities before that, but it felt like they were getting suffocated. You know what I mean? At the same time. But once I hit that point, as you said, that acceptance, that's when just everything, I was like, this, I know this feeling. I've done this heaps of times before. I know this is it. This is like, I can see it now. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna be good. So, this, and that's really exciting. And I love helping other people see that, and helping them be able to get to that point faster, like so much faster, so they're not having to waste so much time, like in the struggle of it, right? And and that's incredible. So
and now you'll be able to document that process that you went through, put it into a systematic approach for people, and then help people who deal with this go, here's the system, here's the way to do it, and it'll help you get through each of those stages without denying each of the stages, but going through each of those stages with some tools and resources and methodology that will help you move through out of victim into victor, and understand why this is happening for you, and how to leverage this in your life, and how to, get to that acceptance and then move forward. I think all that you'll be able to pull together from all that will be transformational beyond what already transformational stuff you're doing for people now.
Yes, that's it. And so I
Mm.
feel pretty grateful. And so I was going to ask you, like, when it comes to your work and
Yep.
resilience, how do you, for anyone watching this, and in their organizations, because you obviously you have your own powerful work that you're doing. So how do
Yep.
you bring resilience into other businesses and other organizations, because you are incredible at resilience, and by default
Very practiced.
and by default, like by what you bring to businesses and
Yep.
organizations, it's very much resilience based.
Yeah, well, ultimately, the whole process we have about helping organizations continue to evolve and stay relevant
Yeah,
is so they become resilient, because so that
yeah,
they don't fade away into obscurity or disappear into the sunset or grow out of business.
yeah,
Because most businesses that grown out of business did so because they didn't evolve and they didn't stay relevant. Therefore, they weren't resilient. They couldn't
yeah.
handle when things come along. The one eye-opening thing, I guess, when I started to flip the whiteboard around and write opportunity down, I remember talking to one of our clients while that was all happening, and they said, Dave, the beauty of the process we've been working on you with is we don't have to react to this pandemic. We're able to respond to this pandemic,
Yes.
because we already had, the work that we do is we always help organizations prepare for a disruption, whether, like, we never would have predicted that as would have been like, so please understand that. But,
Yeah.
that something or someone can come along and shift a whole industry, turn things on its head, everything like that. So our system, we have our Next 90 Business Evolution system we work with people on, is designed to help them constantly evolve and stay relevant so that they're steady and progressively increasing their capabilities and their capacity for greatness, so that when things do shift and change, that they're anticipating and ahead of the game and they're able to respond to it, if not already predict it. How to, best way to get some sense of clarity about the future is to create your own future, right? So you may not be able to predict what's going to happen, but you can create your own future and how you want to do that and start anticipating the future needs of your clients. So one of the things that we do, my little quirky Clarisms that I have, Mandy, and one of them is, if you don't start anticipating the future needs of your clients, the one thing you can anticipate is not having future clients.
Yes.
So, start anticipating, everyone wishes they had hindsight when they should have used insight in the beginning. So resilient strategy is to use your insight, anticipate, make sure that you're constantly increasing your capabilities and your capacity. As Wayne Gretzky was taught by his dad, great Canadian hockey player, his dad taught him to skate to where the puck's going, not where the puck is. Right. So
Yes.
why did Wayne Gretzky always seem to be right there when the puck squirted out of the pack? Because he went to where he knew the puck would go, and he was there. So are you skating to that, or are you chasing the puck everywhere around the rink? So this is like where a lot of businesses are just keep chasing it, rather than actually going, here's where the market's going, or here's the potential shift in that. I'm going to put myself on a trajectory for that. I guess no different to what we did, knowingly or not knowingly, that we knew that evolution should be the natural state of business, and we pushed forward that. Along comes a pandemic, and all these businesses go, holy crap, they're all showing up now going, hey, Dave, we heard you have this evolution system. Can you talk to us about it? Sure. Because that's how you build resilience, is that Darwin theories that it's not the strongest, the fastest, the fittest of the species that survive. It's the one that's, and I've adapted a little bit, that is able to adapt to its ever-changing environment is the one that survives. So resilience comes from your ability to adapt, to use insight, to anticipate, and doing it in a way where you can either respond or predict and stay proactive or on the front foot, whereas a lot of businesses do it reactionary. And that's what's happened through the pandemic. How many businesses reacted to it? Yeah, a lot of them still survived, but the ones that are thriving now, maybe, are the ones who had a resilience framework, if you wish, accepting the fact that something will come along and disrupt them, and saying, how can we take advantage of that? Or how could we maybe be the disruption or lead the disruption in that space, rather than being, and you've seen me, I think, do this before, where I talked about affect and effect. You can either affect the change or affect the disruption, or be affected by the disruption. So you can either choose to have to deal with it or lead it or be at the forefront of it. So when you're evolving your organization and yourself to stay relevant, that's you building resilience because you're steady and progressively increasing those capabilities, that capacity you're anticipating, you're using inside all the stuff to do it. In business, where before we could have 10 years of this, then 10 years of that, it was very predictable. There's limited opportunity and predictability, but there's tremendous opportunity and uncertainty if you're willing to go look for it.
Yeah, it's true. And I think too, there's when it comes to, I guess, and I sense that you do too. I guess, even for my own coaching, it's like a mix of resilience and anti-fragile or anti-fragility, right? And that's, because I think there's lots of people that would like resilience as to mean that shit's never going to hit the fan, that you're always just going to be smooth sailing, that you won't be affected, by stuff so strong that nothing can knock you down and so forth, and that you won't get any hiccups in life. But that's not what it's about. It's your ability to be able to handle trauma and be able to come back from it and build yourself, with more strength from that point. So, and that's what the beauty is about life, right? Is to be able to do that for yourself.
Yeah, and if you look at, once again, the word resilience, it's about your ability to recover from or return to its natural state, so when evolution is the natural state of your business and you get faced with something, you might have to deal and stuff like that, but then you're able to still return to that natural state. Which is why when growth is your state, that's when businesses struggle. And an ability of a system or an organization to respond or to recover readily from a crisis or disruptive process, that's resilience. This is the work that we do, is we help them build the evolution as a natural state, systematically build their organization in a way where that happens. And yes, does it mean that they won't face disruption? No, but they're ready for it, or they're leading it, or they're prepared for it, or they're proactive about it, or they're expecting it.
Yes.
And then they can deal with it and bounce back and maneuver around it, lead it, do whatever they need to do. It's the ones that don't do that are the ones that are going to struggle.
Because people don't want to face that, right? Because it seems scary, where if you're prepared for it, well, then you know that you've got your own back. So there's and there's always going to be, and even more in the future, any business person, leader out there now, there's always going to be something that's going to come along and threaten your business. Every single business on the planet today is under threat, whether from competition, disruption in the industry, from a competitor, from that, or somebody outside the industry. The three biggest disruptions in the business world were Netflix, Uber, and Airbnb. Neither of those were started by people in the industry. They were started by pissed off consumers who were unhappy, found a new model that made the old model obsolete. And here we are today. And none of the people in the industry bothered to think about, if the taxi companies had just created an app, Uber probably wouldn't exist today. But that's the sort of stuff there was no need to. I didn't need to do that. Well, I'm sure you today, I don't care what industry, what business in, whether you think you're protected by government or not, your business is under threat. Your organization is under threat. And if you don't build a resilient strategy, and that is where you create an evolution as a natural state, whoever you get to help you do that, but resilience is going to be critical, not only as us as human beings, but in business as well. Yes, that's right. That's cool.
Without a doubt, Mandy. It's and the sad part is, if the business isn't resilient, then all those human beings are put at risk, because then their livelihoods and everything like that are. So, I look at our team, I'm like, we have to constantly keep evolving and staying relevant as a team, because I have the livelihoods of 3 people in our team that depend on us to do that. Now, I know they're resilient people. They'll bounce back. They'll find other things if they had to. But the business needs to be resilient. It doesn't mean that it won't be under attack.
That's it. That's cool. And so if people were wanting to get hold of you, Dave, because obviously they'll be watching this and go, okay, how do I get hold of Dave now? I want a conversation with him. How do they get hold of you?
Well, the easiest way just goes to my website, my personal website, if you want to get hold of me personally, daveclare.com, DAVECLARE.com. Just reach for the contact thing. Say you saw me on Mandy or heard me on Mandy's podcast. You want to have a chat with me, whatever. I promise you, any response you get is from me. From a business point of view, Jordan, our client concierge, if you want to talk to Circle Leadership, it's just concierge at circleleadership.global. And then Jordan handles all that stuff, because you're far better off to get hold of her if you want to get hold of myself and or Lisa about our business. But if you want to just talk to me personally, yep, daveclare.com. All my socials are on there. Yeah. Or just shoot a message to Mandy and she'll be able to get you a hold of me.
That's it. I was going to say.
Mandy has a direct line.
That's it. I will make sure that you are in touch with Dave. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Awesome.
And please, like I say, if anything you've heard, you want further information, whatever, anything I can add value,
Yeah.
I would love to be able to do whatever I can to help your listeners and stuff. And if so I can help one person learn from the crap that I went through and dealt with and help me become who I am today. Yeah, that's once again, I think those are privileged opportunities that a lot of us don't see or don't take advantage of. Yeah,
that's it. So it's been awesome. Thanks so much for coming on today. It's been
thank you for allowing this to happen again.
Yeah, that's it. It's so
Yeah.
good. Oh, well, thank you again. I really value and appreciate you big time. It's been awesome having you on. And and thanks everyone for joining in. And I'll also include Dave's links and everything underneath in the text underneath as well. So just to make it easier for you to reach out. Awesome. Okay. Well, big hugs. It's been awesome to have you on. Okay. See you later, everybody. Yeah. Thank you, Dave.